Like as soon as it dropped us, went back to camp, we could see it fly away, and also I was standing there just in pure awe because I was thinking like, let's say my radio dies here, my battery in my radio, and my GPS dies here.
Hello and welcome back to Wiser Together. This is your host Parmeet Kumar with your co-host and my brother Anas Pasha. How are you, bro?
Great, bro. How are you guys? Hope everyone is well.
I'm good. I'm good. And we have a lovely guest here today. As always, all our guests are lovely. I need to come up with new terminology. But let me do a quick introduction for Mr. Saadan Khalid. He is a geologist. I don't have any other friend who's a geologist, which is a big, big surprise for me coming from the background we came from, because there's not a lot of people in Pakistan who, when you ask them, what do you want to be? And when you grow up and they say, I want to be a geologist. So, how did this come about to be, Sadan?
That's a good question, Gurmeet. Well, first of all, thank you guys for inviting me over to chat with you. I hope the discussion is similar to what we do in regular life, and we can just record it for people and share how we think and what our experiences are.
Yeah.
So, with that, your question is that how did I get to geology out of
Yeah.
out of Karachi,
Also,
Pakistan?
maybe explain
Yeah,
briefly what it
Yeah,
means
what
for people who don't know.
exactly? Even I don't know.
definitely.
And he's a really
Oh,
good friend of
yeah.
mine, and even I don't know much.
I think that's a very common thing in today's age because you don't see a lot of people who are studying geology, and geology education is going down in numbers to begin with. So, geology in general is the study of planets, rocks, minerals, and anything to do with planetary formations. So, it encompasses studying how rocks and minerals form, where do they originate from, and how do they change over time. And an important aspect of understanding all these things is understanding time and geological time. You know, people consider that a year is a long time, a couple hundred years is a long time, and for people, dinosaurs are a far-fetched thing. You know,
Yeah.
they think that dinosaurs are so old, but in reality, they are just about 66 million years old and
Just.
our Earth just 66 million years old, and planet Earth is about 4.56 billion years, and
Yeah.
Wow.
our universe is about 3 point some billion years old, right? So when you think about how rocks form and how did planet Earth form, it comes to down to understanding the dimension of time and how things have changed over time. So I think that is my brief description of what geology is as an earth science. It's an earth science, and within that earth science, that's all that encompasses. How did I come about to finding geology in my life, in my career? And which is an interesting story because while growing up, I aspired to be a biotechnologist by profession.
Hmm.
But that quickly changed when I came abroad to study and I started doing my first year general sciences courses, and I learned that I will not be able to pursue an education in biotechnology, and I shifted my major from biotechnology to geology. It's a twofold process, maybe three reasons. One was that I was not able to attend the program. The secondly was that um, I did not want to spend the rest of my life in a laboratory setting. That's where a career in biotechnology would have led me down.
Hmm.
And I think I wanted a career that was a hybrid between a lab and fieldwork. And
Right.
at that moment, I did not know what fieldwork really meant, but I knew that I didn't want to pursue anything that was that laboratory heavy, and
Yeah.
engineering was not something I was going to pursue. So that's one. So that's the second reason. And then my third reason was looking back at Pakistan as a country, and I'm just like growing up, we always heard that minerals, Pakistan has a big scope in the minerals
Yeah. A lot of
industry and the oil
resources.
and gas
Yeah.
industry. So a lot of resources, and that was just a statement, right? So I got curious about it. I came to Vancouver to study geology. It mining. Vancouver is a mining hub, a global mining hub with a lot of junior mining companies. Started looking into them and seeing what the scope is. after attending a few conferences and having discussions with peers, professors, industry professionals, I quickly realized that Pakistan has a variety of mineral deposit potential, and there has been research that's been done since the late 70s in the country and late 80s by the USGS, and then there was somebody at UBC while I was going to UBC who was doing his PhD at Reko, which is one of the biggest
Hmm.
porphyry copper deposits, and it is situated in Pakistan. This is a former Pakistani fellow as well, and yeah, so those are the three reasons that piqued my interest at that time.
I think like none of those, like obviously learning about rock formations and how I don't know much about them, but it's obviously intriguing how we came. There's three eras,
Yeah,
right? Mesozoic era and all of that. So don't. I'm not very well versed in all of this, but it's obviously interesting and intriguing studying and learning about these things. But that, from how I see it, and obviously we've known each other for a long time, you didn't get into this field because of that, but because you saw uh, safety in this field, you saw scope, you saw, yeah, safety would be a good term, like your life would be set, and you know what I mean? There's scope, you'd be earning, you'll be stable. Uh, so the rock formation in itself, how much of that was how much of that influenced your decision to initially start with geology? Because at in the beginning obviously you didn't know much about it. Now maybe it piques your interest.
yes. So your question is more so did the financial stability of the industry and my career kind of
Influence your
weighed into
decision.
my decision and
Yes.
influenced my decision? I would say for me, more than that, what influenced my decision was um, how much time it was going to take me to graduate, to be honest, and then the upside of like the career, the aspiration of like being able to work in the field, being able to work in a laboratory and then manage it in an office setting as well. I think like
Hmm.
that dynamic setting, and I quite enjoyed like doing research and like interacting with people who are doing research at the moment
Hmm.
on different questions about rocks, right? And it's like from it varies from looking at fossils to looking at mineral deposits, which encompasses all the metals and materials that we use in electronics, in medical
Yeah.
supplies, in making the world what it is today, for making these transitions in the world.
Hmm.
So I think those are my point of view. When I was making the decision of going into geology, I never kind of looked forward to this point that I would have this kind of stability in life, because at that moment my understanding was that a common route in geology in Canada was to go to school for 3 or 4 years, get an education in geology, and most people followed a route into exploration geology or the minerals and mining industry. And that is a very cyclical industry throughout the year, because in the winter there's a lot of snow on the ground and the weather does not permit
Yeah.
access to field areas. So a lot of field work is focused from months of May to September and into October in areas. So you're restricted for doing field work during those times. And usually, when you're a junior geologist in the industry, you only get like 4 month or 6 months contract, and you do those roles and you get your winter off, and you do either something else or you save up the money and you can use different systems to get by in those months. So to answer your question briefly, the financial security was not um, a
Major.
consideration at that
Yeah.
moment. It was more so the ability to travel the world, to look at places where no other human has probably set foot, to look at some
That's
like cool
true.
rocks and work with people of incredible capabilities. Because in the wilderness, it is an important factor to work with high caliber people that you trust, and you can work dynamically in a team, because you don't have access, you are limited with your resources, with intellect, but also the human resources, and just any type of resource that you think cannot be produced by a few people.
That's amazing. I mean, I've seen obviously you send I mean a lot of pictures of the sites you go to and your workplace as well. It's a gold mine, isn't it?
Yeah, so currently I work at a gold mine
Yeah.
in northern DC. Yeah.
Yeah. So regardless, like the places you go to, it's just phenomenal, and these aren't places that are very commercial and touristy that you could just go to if you're not a part of the team or the company, or
Yeah.
and you had told me that you have to take a flight, then a helicopter, then a bus or whatnot. Like these are not easy to get to
Yeah.
places, you know, but they look absolutely phenomenal. So I'm glad that you're really enjoying this aspect of life. Like you're aligned with, uh, you like what your work is, you like what you do, you like your work, which is not the same for a lot of people. A lot of us struggle with that, you know. Our passion and our work isn't really aligned, and uh, I guess most people kind of work towards aligning that part, like, because then you don't dread work, which is a big part of your life. So,
I
what do
was
you?
actually going to ask him that what's the part of his job that he likes the most, but I guess I know the answer as well. You know, he's working at a gold mine, and I mean, if we were talking about stability, the answer is right there. You know, sometimes you're just trying to excavate something, and something might just accidentally fall in his pocket. It's
That's
just
what I had asked him when I went to Canada, but
stability is
unfortunately, that's not how it
uh,
works. You could just
no,
get
I
Yeah.
gold.
like I bet if Sadan smiles, he has a little bit of gold teeth here and there
I
inside.
Go Gold plated, just
good.
like
Yes,
rapper level gold plates in.
ab- absolutely. Because, like Parmeet was saying, when you send to our WhatsApp group as well, the pictures and the videos
Yeah.
and the view out of the helicopter, it is just phenomenal. Like, absolutely gorgeous. It's like a layer of creams and cookies and creams that we're seeing, and it's
Cookies and cream. That's
my
so good.
yeah, absolutely. My actually my question. I had a very intriguing question because most of the time, Canada is, we know the weather of Canada, and especially what you mentioned regarding the extreme weather, the extremities. With a lack of sunlight, how do you cope up with it? As we know, that sunlight has a lot of benefits, mainly vitamin D, and that has a lot to do with your mood. I want to understand, like, how do you cope up with it? Vitamin D plays a huge role. I'm sure we can put up a link regarding benefits of vitamin D, but mainly it has to do with a lot with, for example, testosterone production as well, with channeling your hormones such as dopamine and serotonin. So, how do you cope up with everything in regards to this?
Yeah,
If you
that's
have ever
a
thought about it in the
oh
first place.
def I would say I've been on the deeper end of that thought. Definitely living a lifestyle of this nature, you start to because you're experiencing a lot more, and you're experiencing seasons within the same month as well. So you go from like winter to spring, and then sometimes spring to summer, like between work and home. So you're seeing a lot of seasons, and you're seeing a lot of changes in temperatures and variations. So your body does does signal you, right, that something's changing, and you're putting your body through these rapid changes as well. So I would say how I cope up with it is definitely use supplements. One thing is using supplements to kind of max that out. The other is genuinely, man, taking care of your health and actually dedicating time to getting out in the sun, even if it's not if even if it's overcast and there's still some UV passing through and like all of that.
You
Get some
still get
sun.
vitamin
It's
D.
kind of you still get vitamin D through it, right? It's not as
Yeah.
strong, and especially I don't work underground on a daily basis, so I do have ability to step outside of the work buildings. It's still very snowy and windy outside during the winter time, which is about like 8 months or 9 months up there. And during that time, like taking out a couple minute breaks during the day and actually going outside and getting some sun and just sitting.
Because it's quite opposite for us in Dubai. It's I mean,
Overloaded.
if I could lend you some sun as well. and and despite having so much sun, we don't go out. I prefer
Yeah,
not to step outside even for a minute because it's too much. It's too
Yeah.
overexposure.
Yeah.
So it's just
that
the dichotomy of it is just amazing. I'm here with a lot of sun, and you're there with as much as
Opposite.
sun there
It's
can be.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's the opposite.
and the sun is not only like sun deficit is not only where I work, but also in Vancouver I live. So the weather, so it's called the Pacific
Mhm.
Northwest. So basically, it's a rainforest, but so it receives, I don't know how many millimeters of rain per annum, but it's very gray. It receives, I don't know how many millimeters of rain and overcast weather. So usually it's very depressing through the winter times here as well. But the snow factor up at work, because up at work we receive around like 9 to 15 meters of snow vertically. So with that much amount of snow, it's just challenging to kind of operate and operate an operation like running a gold mine with that much amount of snow is quite a task.
It's like extreme conditions. The pictures you send us as well
Extreme.
from your kind of like your dorm room.
Yeah,
It's crazy. We can maybe put that up. I've got I think I've got
Yeah,
someone made, so we'll put that
yeah,
up.
we got some very nice footage as well.
oh, okay.
If we have your permission, and
Consent.
if we don't leak any secrets, it's nothing. It's actually it
Definitely.
just
There's
goes out of
nothing
the
there.
window.
No, no, no. He's just
As
being
long as it's
No,
not
sarcastic.
videos of, yeah, as long as there is no videos and photos of infrastructure, it's all good.
Yeah.
it's all good. It's
Anyway,
let's keep it
Mm,
hush hush.
yeah. I
yeah.
Geology is great, and obviously that's a big part of your life. But I want to come back to sort of what this podcast is about, and you do bring a lot of value through that regard as well. But it is important to cover what you do and basically where you come from. So just to give a brief background as well, me, Saadan, and Anas went to the same college in Karachi, Pakistan, and it's called Nixer College for people who don't know.
Yes.
It's and we weren't. Me and Saadan used to be really close, but you two knew each other.
So I think because of Banu Bachot, we I think all of us got close because you and
Yeah.
Sadan, I guess if I'm not wrong, went to Beacon House as well.
No, no, no. I was in a different school, but me,
Okay.
Sadan, Daniel, and Alyan, we used to hang out a lot in Mixer together.
Yeah, correct.
And
And then through this tuition or something, you became friends with other friends of ours, and then I
exactly,
think so it
exactly.
happened. But I knew Sadan. I had interaction with Sadan because of this another group. It was regarding music, so I think that is when my initial touch base and things were
Oh,
happening. But
you
all
guys
of us,
had, you guys had made a song or something together.
yeah, it was a song or it was a play. I can't even remember.
It
There
was
was
a
something,
rap
but all
song,
of
I
us.
remember. You rapped
No,
in
the
it as
rap.
well.
The rap was my own. This was what I did in the interview.
But
Khalas. That is
Sadan was in it as
yes.
well.
Sadar, no, I think they were
No, I
in a
don't think
different.
so.
Yeah, it
I've
was a
I've
different
seen
thing
a
entirely.
picture of him with shades and stuff. Maybe it's from a different project.
Oh no,
Oh,
that's
what was
basically
that?
just Cheyenne taking some pictures of
Oh,
me and
Cheyenne.
Arbaz,
Yeah,
and
Ah,
that's when
okay.
Cheyenne used
yeah,
to be a portrait photographer, and he's
Anyway,
yeah.
into taking
yeah.
people's pictures. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
No,
so
so all three of us were doing different things. Were in
yeah,
different extracurricular activities,
yeah.
but in the same college.
Exactly. But that's how I met Sadan and we got close. And then he was supposed to come to the same uni as me, but I still remember how he ditched me and he never came. But he went to Canada. I guess it worked out pretty well. And I visited him last year in Canada as well, which was absolutely one of the best trips I've had. He took me camping for the first time and stuff. And we'll get into that. But there's one thing specifically that I wanted to talk to you about that really piques my interest. And you've been, I don't know how far you've gotten to this, but you were planning to move into a caravan. And as far as I can remember, you bought one and you're renovating it. Tell us about that. Why live in a caravan? How did that come to be? It's quite interesting, to be honest.
Yeah, that's out of everything, that's the most interesting thing I see you gotta ask me, but sure, we can get into that. So that started, so that idea, I started toying with it when COVID had started, and I met somebody, became friends with somebody who owned a vehicle that you can sleep in as well, so kind of a camper, yeah, plus a
Hmm.
small vehicle, a small
Hmm.
minivan basically, and we started doing trips around the lower mainland area, around Vancouver and North Vancouver, Squamish, Whistler area. So just going
Yeah.
north, and also there's a bunch of island on the coast of Vancouver. They're
Hmm.
called the Gulf Islands. So we
Yeah.
started doing road trips and kind of getting out on weekends and sleeping in the car and going about and exploring these beautiful landscapes and these forest service roads that you could go for miles and miles, drive all day, and just kind of roll up to a wreck site and cook some food, enjoy the lake, watch the sunset,
It's a dream.
Beautiful, beautiful.
just do that on a weekend, like getting out of Vancouver.
Yeah,
So that's how it started, and then the other aspect was you know our common friend up there as well, and he had moved out to Vancouver Island, and I was always interested, like it would be nice to have a second base to just
yeah,
go roam about and explore North America.
yeah,
So I think those two instances and those two people in my life kind of gave me the vision to get a vehicle such that that can sustain me, is self-sufficient on electricity, can store water, can keep me warm, can keep me cool, and has four wheels and is reliable and can take me from point A into the wilderness and I'll be safe. And the idea behind it, you guys, was that let's say somebody comes and visits me, um, and it goes back to who I am as a person and what I enjoy. I enjoy when somebody comes visits me and I can go take them out and show them all these places and
yeah.
have those experiences with them and take them to those spots. So the reason that I'm building it is for going out on week or 2 week long trips with friends and family and
Yeah.
go exploring, meet new people who share the same interests as me.
So you still have a house?
I still have a house and I plan on keeping one.
Okay.
And the whole idea is because, and the reason for that is that I think like living in a van full time for somebody like myself is a little far-fetched. Maybe
Yeah, that's
we'll
what I
get
was
there
thinking. Yeah,
slowly.
Yeah.
eventually. You
That's where
are
we
on
get
track, to be honest.
That could serve as
I
an
think
extension, your caravan.
exactly it serves as an extension, but I think someday when I feel confident enough and I think I am able to sustain a lifestyle like that, then I will give it a go. But it needs to be fueled by a lifestyle, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like we had a chat about this as well, like how you wanted to update the friend you mentioned. So
Mm,
when I visited Saadan in Canada, just to give you guys some context, Saadan lives in Vancouver. He took me around Alberta, which is like mountains, and we did camping and stuff. We went to Banff, and it was just the most beautiful experience. I had never done camping before, but anyway, we came to Vancouver, and then he took me to Vancouver Island to meet up there. He lives there in a caravan and manages a farm, uh, and the life there is so chill and relaxing. You absolutely have no worries of the world. Uh, he lives with his dog in a caravan. He has a house as well, but next to a farm, just managing the greenhouse and
That's his profession.
yeah, that's what he does, bro.
Amazing.
Abdeh is actually here in
yeah.
Sydney, and I'm meeting him in 2 hours. It's
Okay, that
crazy.
is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, me and Sadan had this chat that Sadan told me that he wanted to move to Vancouver Island as well, just because how relaxing it is. Island life. There's not many people. You're living on a farm. It's just so relaxing, and that is
It's
something I
serene.
see myself doing as well in the future. I just want to live in wilderness, small house. You
Does
have do
Australia
gardening.
have any islands that
Yeah,
you could
yeah,
move
yeah.
to?
Not, I don't necessarily have to go to an island, but there is quite a few. But yeah, that's sort of how I see myself living as well. Just gardening with my partner and a dog and a few kids. And I don't think
Mashallah.
about this, but this comes to my head a lot. Like, and that's how I see myself living when I'm uh, maybe 35, 40. I don't know how it's gonna
Eh,
go out, but we share the same mindset there, right, Sadan?
Definitely, like I think there's different kind of people who strive for a faster, a more
Yeah,
happening life, and there's other people who like a mix or they sway more towards a lifestyle that's laid back. Like laid back, it doesn't mean that it does not is not supporting, it's not being supported financially or it's not part of the capitalistic system. It still
it's
is, but
yeah,
just a different way of living and sustaining yourself,
yeah.
which requires
I feel
different
like
priorities, right?
yeah, I feel like it's harder, and it's just it's easier to live among so many people doing so many things, this and that. But when you set your priorities straight, only a person who really, really knows what they want to do would go out and do something that
Precisely.
is not conventional, which being this, right? But if you're on a very autonomous kind of living, you'd end up following the same footstep that everybody does, living in a big city, doing those things, going out to bars, having dinners, meeting friends, this and that. But only a small chunk of people who really, really know what they want to do would end up doing something that's unconventional. And for me as well, it relates to me in the sense that I feel like I can serve what my purpose is to others. I can serve that by being the best version of myself, and I need to do that through investment in the self, through meditation and solitude and things like that, which really comes down to me being in these situations. Not practical at the moment, but I aspire to be there. And that's the we've had this conversation, and it's so enjoyable, and to see the same
It's like
perspective. And
what Sadan said when he used the word confident enough. I feel like as we grow older and as we have these conversations and we have these experiences, this is what we come to understand, like what is exactly we're looking for in life. Like Sadan
yeah,
also mentioned that a person might be going towards or aiming towards a much more happening or capitalistic life.
yeah,
But as you know, like we grow older, we have these experiences, we meet these people. I mean, look at how amazing these people, like as he mentioned, the other person and up
up
there
there.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, this these people have had such a tremendous influence on him that he was exposed to that life, and that
yeah,
planted a seed in his mind. And now, inshallah, whenever, like he said, he feels confident and he's able to figure out on his own way, he can do. I i genuinely am very excited about this idea because my god, I feel the same way. Whenever someone is here or whenever I've had the privilege to take someone out, we've had this conversation with my friend Kika as well about experiential friendships, and I'm so
yeah,
happy that you guys also shared this
yeah.
because it's way better than just going out for a dinner, going out for these things. Because the experiences that you guys had, like you said about camping and you said about watching the sunset together, pulling up your truck on the side, cooking food,
It's
these things
beautiful.
are cemented. Yeah, these things are cemented, and those landscapes are unique, and these opportunities are quite rare. I mean, just imagine had Sadan come with you to the UK, then you wouldn't have
Yeah,
this opportunity. He wouldn't be settled here, and then he wouldn't have taken you out in that sense. So
yeah.
it is tremendous, and these ideas are very excited. I can't wait for you, both of you, to move to an island with your partners, with your dogs, and start doing this so I can visit you guys and for me to have these experiences as well. It's truly tremendous. And I just and I like just imagine the people listening. What if because of you guys they're able to have this idea as well in their head? I'm sure a lot of people would like to do this. But again, this word that Sadan used, confidence, is just such an important word because we're so accustomed to living in our own house. Like now we're sort of living independent, but
Hmm.
all our life, like majority of our life, we've lived in sort of a sheltered environment, sort of a pampered environment. But the way the life that both of you are describing, it makes you so vulnerable. Like I can't for the life of me imagine, my God, like sleeping in a caravan, and for someone to come at 3 in the night and knock in the window, it
We
just would be
actually,
terrifying. Yeah, it would just would be terrifying. But hey, that's the thrill of it.
yeah,
That's the thrill of it. That's
Mm.
the, like, just imagine, like, I've seen this video, like people sleeping and then they are woken up to a bear on the window, or like an animal on the window peeking into their house. Animals are also curious, and especially when you're living in like Sadan said, that in the wilderness. So these ideas, my god, are so like genuine, are
refreshing.
so.
Yeah,
And yeah, and since I've known both of you for a long while, it's just so amazing to listen to these ideas because again, these are also breathing a new life into me. Like I never imagined to do this, but I don't know. Like for me to try this would be to try with you guys for the first time, and then see for myself if I'm okay with this idea or not.
see, that's what it is exactly. Like you mentioned, it's just exchange of energies. Like you, by exchanging an energy with someone else, like what they think, and then you exchange the energy with them. You kind of test it out. You relate with this, or you don't relate with this. Uh, and obviously, Sadan received it from someone else, and he shared with me, and I was really able to relate with it, and it hit home. Although Sadan and me have been friends since like 2013, 14, and we don't talk every day, maybe once in 3, 4, 6 months, but it's always like hits home, and it feels very
Absolutely.
homely talking because we kind of have those, like the energy he releases. I'm very much able to. I want to expand on that. I want to explore that more. So like gardening and stuff, like I'm obviously getting into this. It's since the past year. Sadan has been that, in my eyes, has been that person. Obviously he's had his journey of discovery and self exploration throughout the years, but you've always been that person who's very grounded, who's, you know what I mean. But
I do know what you mean. Yeah, there's a little bit,
yeah,
you know. I think I have an understanding of where you're going with that because we've had these
yeah,
conversations over years and we've related to each other in the sense. And I think
yeah,
like all these, this is what you do when you see. I think when you say you're friends with somebody in general, there is an aspect of care and a care and an aspect of improvement and an aspect of improving together,
yeah,
like how you guys have the same to be wiser together. I think what friendships mean to me, or some context of friendship also means growing together,
yeah,
sharing experiences, but also things you enjoy, right? So in my mind, how I'll try to relate all these things that we've been talking about and put me bring it in as well. Like my somebody had exposed me to these ideas as well. Of course, that's how I learned
yeah,
about
yeah,
them.
exactly.
But my main context was imagine for me, it's very peaceful to think that imagine you live on a big property one day, and that property has a forest on it, and that forest has multiple different accesses, and you live on that property with your farms and their families, and it's all connected through the jungle, and you can meet them and still exchange ideas and your days, and
Yeah,
everybody's kind of doing their own thing. That way, nobody's in each other's space. And then imagine if it's a community that is self-sustaining in terms of food as well, right? And food does not just mean like depends on like how you consume, but like growing their own like garden beds.
that's what
They
I'm
have
thinking.
somebody's growing like tomatoes, somebody's growing their carrots, and that's what they kind of specialize in. I mean, you're still like using resources from the outside world, but kind of supplementing it with fresh nutrition and living in a world that's sustainable, using your own compost, developing your
Sustainable.
own compost into so something that's sustainable from your level. When people ask me as well, like, oh, you're in mining and you are doing all these things. What is your impact on like sustainability and climate and stuff like that? Given like geology or mining has a negative connotation, but it's about like how you perceive what you want to build in a world that you live around, right? So I think for me, that's interacting with nature, living in a sustainable way, and contributing resources to the world in the way that I can. So I think like that's how it all relates. Like living in a sustainable area that has a connection. It's not just kind of skyscrapers, but like living forests around
Yeah,
you, living soil around you, things that the earth that gives you back energy to you in terms of nutrition and just care. And it's a symbiotic relationship. And then you can go study or do whatever else you want
I
to do as an
believe
extension of it.
I believe that is so important to experience once in a lifetime, because once, like Parmeet said, uh, get disconnected, live on an island per se. That island cannot be an island, but just as an example.
Yeah.
Um, just to get away from society and be with nature. I've had that experience with the same college that you guys talked about. It was this. I think you guys remember when I went with other students as well to build a house for,
yeah, yeah,
build a
yeah.
school for other children. When you were saying these things, I was also. Like those images and those things were going through my head, because I've had the privilege of going away for 22 days without our cell phones, without connectivity, because we were in the north of Pakistan, and we had to build the entire school from scratch. But at the same time, we were living off nature. We were not growing, or we were not that element of it. Obviously, in because of the time constraint, we could not do that. But however, we were living off nature. We were drinking from the streams. We were collecting water from the streams and taking shower from that. We were washing our clothes from the streams, and we were, sleeping on the floors, and we were waking up with the sounds of animals and then streams, and we were sleeping into the night of the darkness of the mountains, and under the, like the stars light. So these things, I believe, are very important for one to first of all understand how beautiful the earth is, and to understand what we're losing out on if we do not experience these things, like as you said about climate change, as you said about not taking care of the environment. The mining might have a negative connotation, but I believe the research that you do, the experiments that you guys are doing, and the finding that you guys contribute towards, they really help a lot. It helped a lot with me as well to understand how nature works and how important it is to just go away and experience that, maybe for a week or two. So I believe the negative connotation is there, but once that person experiences it, it might go away.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. And to add to your experience as well, for the first time when that nature aspect really hit me, I still remember that day very vividly. I've had many of those experiences over a lifetime and I've felt it, but I think the most meaningful one that I had was in 2018. I would say I had been I was in the Yukon, which is a province in Canada here, and in the middle of nowhere basically. So I took a flight from Vancouver to Whitehorse. That's a 2.5 hour flight, 2.5 hour flight. Then drove up to Mayo City, which is the northernmost city in the Yukon, and got on a plane there. Little plane, 5-person plane. Took an hour flight into an airstrip in the middle of the mountains. Came to this like mountain belt called Rakla. Took a helicopter from that airstrip into camp, and now I'm in this camp for 2 months without any cell service, without any. Like I have my two duffel bags and a backpack, and I'm here for 2 months, and there's a full established camp. You're fed. There's food that's made for you. You have a
Gym.
canvas tent that sleeps. So that's a different experience. So right now where I am, there's a gym, but this space did not. So what
Okay.
happened really was we were living in these canvas tents, and in the Yukon, there's about 22 hours of sunlight during the night, during the day, like a 24-hour period. So like imagine the sun never sets, so it just goes, circles around, and comes back up. It's doing that up in the mountains. I remember I woke up one morning and I was getting ready to get in a helicopter to go out in the field, and we did that. We got in the helicopter flew and dropped us in the field. And as soon as the helicopter left, like we were on top of a ridge here, and we could see the whole mountain range from top here. So like as soon as it dropped us, went back to camp, we could see it fly away, and also I was standing there just in pure awe because I was thinking like, let's say my radio dies here, my battery in my radio, my GPS dies here. There is no way that there's anybody in 200 kilometers in any direction who will even hear a cry or will be able to find me. And I think like that's one of very profound moments in my life where I was like, I'm so small and I'm so insignificant that I can't
Yeah.
even make a battery to kind of power my own life at the moment. So be humble, try to kind of ground yourself and experience nature in its raw form. And
That's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
that
You always had that natural instinct to humble yourself and ground yourself. And from like early on as
mhm,
well, maybe you don't realize this about yourself, but from that time as well, when we were growing up in Nixer, I always saw that element in you. And maybe we never had a conversation about it at the time. But coming back to that nature aspect, it's so important. I mean, just look at evolutionarily, we're a part of nature, right? And maybe we've become slaves to the modern conveniences and comforts of the modern world. We've become slaves to the conveniences of the modern world, and that kind of put layers and layers around it that don't allow us to, connect so much with nature as we naturally would. But evolutionary, if you look at like from like you mentioned, we're so insignificant, and we only live maybe 80 to 100 years, whereas the world is billions of years, right, old, and
mhm, yeah,
our evolution is maybe like 100,000, couple of 100,000 years old, and we've always been connected with nature. So you, I always find that stillness and peace being in nature, just naturally. I don't know what it is about it, but that really like it feels like home. It feels like this is where I want to be, and that's where this living in wilderness and gardening and all these aspects come from as well. So it's beautiful to see
yeah,
that. But
It's I just want to touch base on one thing, because that's amazing, like the things that we're talking about, the feelings that we're talking about. And it's just so unfortunate that majority of the people will never be able to experience this. I believe, in my opinion, this is what the world should be promoting, such a lifestyle. Because as Sadan mentioned, a sustainable lifestyle is actually going to sustain yourself. Then there's no need for money, then there's no
yeah,
need for extraordinary ambition, there's no need for anything. However, if we see, and if we see our generation as well, per se, we're moving in the opposite direction.
because
People,
capitalism, right? It just
capitalism,
doesn't
yeah,
serve us.
yeah, people in droves are moving towards city from rural areas. Why? Because cost of living and just cost of to be able to survive is just so much that they have to. And unfortunately, negative influences about having money, having car, having the best things might feed people with ambitions, might feed people with goals that necessarily they might not like. Because all three of us have been fortunate enough to experience those things. And now, like I was saying that, like for example, Sadan, all three of us, when we've had these experiences of living with nature, having those moments, we've realized that this is, something so extraordinary for us. This is something so rare for us. This is something unique for us, that we crave it so much more, because it brings us peace, it brings us stillness, it brings us calmness, the thing that you were talking about. How do we, and like if I may ask both of you, what should be the blueprint of a person? Because for me as well, I would love to retire in one of the islands in Istanbul. There are three islands in Istanbul, all with different shapes and sizes, and when I visited them, I was like, this is where I want to die, this is where I want to get buried, and this is where I want to spend most of my life, like at least my end part of the life. I want to ask both of you, what should be the blueprint for men and women our age, our generation, and even the up and coming? How, what should they do to experience a this lifestyle, and b, understanding the value of this stillness and calmness?
I think it's the foundation to everything. You don't necessarily need to go live on an island and do gardening and do all of that. That's something personal to me. A lot of people might relate to it. A lot of people might not relate to it. I always say just question yourself, find answers, see what you really, really relate with and what really makes you happy. Most of the times it's going to be nature. People who are, a lot of the people that I know that are enlightened and self-aware, they're all of them are connected to nature in some way or the other. You know what I mean? So I just say, like, question yourself, be more self-aware, and find your answers yourself. Nobody can tell you what you are, what you like, what you should be. It all starts within, right? And it's a never-ending journey. It'll keep going on.
That's a good response for me, and I'll pick up on some of those points as well. For me, I would say like the most important thing to kind of understanding the blueprint is connection with self. Your connection with yourself is, I think, the most important aspect that will drive the key components on your blueprint, and then you will try to drive to them those little key marker points by yourself, and you'll find that way. I think connecting with yourself in in many different ways, trying to understand yourself spiritually is important, but also understanding yourself physically is important as well in terms of how you experience nutrition. How do you eat? How do your muscles feel? How are your muscles fully functional? Are all muscle groups being activated? Is your body up to like maximum capacity? Things like that on which add to the spiritual component as well. And then the reason I say that is because, sometimes I think that a lot of people go out to play in nature, but actually you're not playing in nature, you're just working out in nature. So you need to understand your body and your physical capacity. So actually go out there and have fun and play in nature rather than work out in nature. That's an important part. That's an important aspect. And one thing I'd like to add, which isn't part of the blueprint concept, but it is to what we were talking earlier, which is nature. I think we all experience nature in our own ways. Even living in cities, in mega cities, there's still nature around us. It's more so like
Not in
experiencing
Dubai.
wilderness. Not, yeah, maybe, yeah, maybe it has its own. It is nature. It's just a different kind of wilderness, right? And experiencing wilderness of any sort, I think, gives that deep kind of longing. How I see it is like it's being in the awe of the landscape, or being in the awe of kind of being away from civilization or society.
Yeah.
That kind of brings you down and kind of makes you look around and question what are these components and how is it what it is today. So that impact, I think, like if you have a mindset, or you're a curious person in terms of how life works around yourself, as you mentioned, Praveen, I think that along with the connection with self will help you deliver or find your own blueprint. One thing that I'll kind of add differently to what Permeet said, Permeet has an opinion of find happiness, whereas I kind of have an opinion of, or my own personal experience has been figuring out what I do not like, because I think process of elimination helps me
Hmm.
more in certain aspects in life than process of finding happiness does. Because I once I understand that there is something that I don't like, or I have I sway away from, then I just don't want to create that in my life, right? And that doesn't mean that I don't want to do the hard things, but you have personal preferences in two things that are the same and will result in similar outcomes. You choose to do one or the other.
Yeah.
Do the things that kind of sit with you and are natural.
Yeah, just to correct on that, I don't necessarily, you can't find happiness. I've said this like so many times.
Mm,
It's just you go through a process, and it comes from self acceptance. Once you are at peace with who you are, uh, that creates space for you to do things more freely without the questions of your external environment and surrounding. And if that doesn't affect you, how you freely operate and you're unapologetically yourself, you would just find happiness in that, and you would find peace in that. And it's not like something you find, it comes to you through certain things that you do, right? Obviously everybody has a different definition and understanding of it, but yeah, I know you've
That is,
had.
sorry.
That's okay. No, no. Me and Sadan have talked at length about this, and obviously life is ups and downs. So, just talking about it
Definitely,
helps a lot.
yeah. What we talked about at the start, like when we were having our own conversation, peaks and valleys, that is part of life. And for Sadan, that's figuratively. He sees peaks and valleys most of the year. I want to touch on something which is mutual to all three of us. We're all, in some shape or form, immigrants. From
Hmm.
basically our situation that we were born into. I want to ask both of you, like, by before I ask that, I'm going to share a little bit of my experience when I decided to move to Dubai. My brother lives and works here. So when the idea came about, he said that sure you can. But he specifically mentioned one thing to me, which at that time I believe I was quite naive and immature to understand. He said that if you want to move here, you have to, an exclamation mark, burn your boats. Like, I don't know, man, if it was burn your boats or burn your bridges. I'm so sorry. But it was somewhere along that
Burn your
line.
bridges. Yeah.
Let's just say burn your bridges. He said that when you will move here, you must burn your bridges. After 2 years living here, in fact, that hit me right after 3 months, what that meant. And that meant everything, the life that I knew, the people that I knew, the things that I used to do, I they would now be just distant memories, or they would hit nostalgically. For you guys, how were you able to burn your bridges, if you did even realize this idea that you guys had to, before and after moving to your specific countries?
Sadan, you want to
Do
go
you want to
first?
go first?
You go
Okay, I
first.
can go first. I can go first and explain this. So that's a really good question, and I think something um that hits home very hard for me. I was in a leadership training a couple of weeks ago, or about a couple of months ago, and you know how they ask you. It's a very common question in this style of kind of setting that people ask you. So what's the toughest thing you've done? They ask you what's the toughest thing you've done, and my answer was that immigration is the toughest thing that I've done. Um, and that was my answer. And what they technically checking there is technical or driven by feelings and what you've really done. But for me, immigration was the answer because basically it changed my whole. It's a paradigm shift.
Hmm.
It's not just a lifestyle. It's a paradigm shift on how you operate and what things you're involved in, what's your immediate environment, what's your distant environment, the kind of relationships that you're about to build, and things that you're about to interact with, right? So in my experience, I'd say it was tough because I had to leave what was familiar and what was easy, which was my family and my friends. I would say burning my bridges or burning my boat was not the approach that I have taken in general. I would say it's not about burning bridges. I think everything was different, right? Everything was different. I had to start fresh. I didn't know many people, and just like you guys, right? And I've been here about 8 years now, so I've had that kind of feelings of up and down. But one thing I would say is respect was something that came to me after understanding some understanding of the environment that I was dealing with. Is like wherever you go in world, make sure to respect the land and the people there because that is primary, and without that, you won't be able to kind of succeed there, which is different in each person's case and where they choose to visit or live. And I would say living abroad and kind of establishing yourself is hard, is difficult, because developing new social connections at a later age, which are meaningful, and people who will care for you just outside your professional life, becomes more challenging as
Beautiful.
you kind of get older and you age. That's my personal experience. But talking to people, I've kind of gathered that a lot of people have these experiences. So yeah, like respect was big, leaving home, leaving what was comfortable and familiar was big. Establishing yourself from an early education, being a broke student, to going out and getting yourself through
Gold
odd jobs,
nuggets.
to get yourself through odd jobs. People don't see that on Instagram. People don't see that in the middle of the life flashes you have,
Hmm.
because everything's all, as they say in today, all Gucci,
All
but
Gucci.
it's not really, right? Like it's not like life is made out of all these different components, which kind of, when you look back at it, and now I at least look back and I'm like, okay, I did that, did this, and I do have those down days, right? Everybody has those, so
Hmm.
kind of remind yourself that it's a journey which is hard and difficult, but if you made a good decision and you made a decision based on your future outcomes, and that's positive, and you can do it, you must. Just to add to that, before going too far, I still remember my first week in university, ever being abroad, having that culture shock a little bit, and not having friends and not doing the things I was familiar with. I called my dad up, and I remember I had kind of tears in my eyes, and I was going,
Wow.
and I told him that, hi, I'm having a hard time, and I can't really, I don't know if I can actually do this. And I didn't say I can't do this. I said, I don't know if I can. And he said to me, um, that's okay. Hey, son, listen to me. Like, that's okay. If you can't, get on the next flight and come back home. But do remember that if that's the decision you make, not everybody gets
Second
a
chance.
choice like this in life. And then second chance, only very rare people get second chances. So just be conscious of that. And if you don't wanna take this challenge, come back home. And I kind of, when I got off that
I
phone, I was
have
like,
goosebumps. I have goosebumps.
yeah, I did too, and I was like, okay, like I am left with a big decision here. That's how it started. 8 years later, now my family is coming to visit me tomorrow. So
Beautiful.
I guess there's something going right, regardless of how I
You
view my
know, I was
life.
about to ask you in the end, I was about to ask you what is one thing that made it worth it all? And I believe you snatched the answer right away because this part was the answer. Your family coming to visit you is an accomplishment in itself. It is a feat in itself. And like Parmeet said, ever since I've known you as well, there was always something about you, my friend. So grounded, so focused, so dedicated, and so happy to hear your story.
Yeah,
Thank you. I
100%.
appreciate it.
What about you, PK?
Yeah,
For
tell us
me,
about
my
yourself.
experience is different. I was always like, from day one, as long as I can remember, I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Grateful to be privileged, and I was in a position where I was always told that you'll go out. So my brother went out first, and then I was excited, so excited that I didn't finish my second year of A levels, and I
What? I didn't know this.
yeah, so I only did AS, and
How did they take you? Foundation?
yeah, I did foundation.
What a cheat code. What is this?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just wanted to
Stop
get
this
out.
podcast. Stop this podcast. What is this?
Like, I was so excited. I just wanted to get out and go out and live in the UK, or UK was the only option at the time. So I was really excited, and it never occurred. I never had second thoughts of going back, or I can't do this. I don't know what it was, but I was just really excited to be there. Uh, but I was never self-aware. I'm glad I got the opportunity to come out, experience the world, get that exposure, and with time eventually get certain energies that led me to question myself and go on a journey of self-exploration and really find myself. It took a long time, but it never crossed my mind that I can't do this or I want to go back. I always wanted to. As soon as I moved out within the first 2 years, I wanted to be abroad, not the UK particularly. Australia was coming up. The idea of Australia was developing at the time, but I just wanted to be out where there's opportunities I can meet like-minded people, people who are growing and working on themselves, and stuff like that. So I'm just glad and I'm privileged. I realize that now the position I am in, to be able to have gone through the journey that I went through. A lot of people don't get that opportunity, and it's truly a blessing. So and I'm glad that I ended up in Australia, because I wouldn't be anywhere else, to be honest. It's quite a place to be. I don't know if I answered your question.
That is perfect, guys. I think both of you answered it in depth and in honesty, and that is what really matters. While Sadan was mentioning about his university, my first experience abroad was in Istanbul when I took that semester exchange, and I cannot help but relate how he felt during first week of university, because that was my exposure as well. Sitting in that orientation room in front of these 50, 60 people from all over the world speaking multi languages, having been to at least minimum 15 countries, and here was one guy that his first or second country, because right before that was Singapore, so I don't even count that, but my first real country would be Turkey. For me as well, it was daunting because I thought I was the shit back in Pakistan. I was like, damn, I mean, bring it on. But when I was in front of that, when I could hear people speaking in different languages and having done this and that, I in my mind was like, listen, son, be humble and sit down. The humbling experience right after that was when I
Shout out
went
to
to
Kendrick
each.
Lamar,
Yeah.
Uh, Absolutely. The second most humbling experience was when I went to everyone and introduced myself and I faced rejections. No, a lot of people didn't want to be friends with me. And that's fine, because a lot of people were there, and that was their first week as well. And a lot of people are afraid. A lot of people are just trying to figure themselves out. But it was such a daunting experience. But like Parmeet, I was very excited as well. I was very excited to get out of per se Pakistan and to see what the world has to offer and what the world was doing and what the world was up to. And again, that decision, like the decision that you guys made, I was so happy, because for that trip I had to save up. I had to borrow some money as well. But I am so glad that I made that decision. I applied for that position and I got that position because it was a competition out of a lot of students to be able to get that scholarship. And because of, like we mentioned, it all comes home. The ideas that people plant in us, the experiences that we get from people, and their experiences that rub off on us have shaped us to be the people that we are today, have shaped Sadan to get that idea of a caravan, to have an extension of his home, and to travel all around North America, has gave Parmeet the idea to go on this journey of finding happiness, to be able to achieve a version of himself that he never thought that he would do. For myself, even to have like a better economic condition, to be able to support my family and to be able to enjoy a life which is what God has also given us, because you see each landscape, like in Dubai, there is not like a lot of there is wilderness, but not the idea that we have the desert. We have the desert and the scorpions and the camels and the heat that come with it. So that is also the wilderness of Dubai. Sydney also has the most extreme climate. I mean, the most extreme animals,
Climate is
spiders,
okay,
which are.
but yeah,
Climate is okay.
yeah,
What
yeah.
about Nanina and Lenina? If I'm
That
taking their
that
names
happens
right,
like La
did
Nina.
I take
La
did I
Nina,
take the
La
names right?
Nina, yeah.
Yeah,
So that happens once in like 10, 12
yeah.
years, but generally the weather in Australia is pretty good. Pretty good.
That is amazing. So
Yeah.
I just yeah, to sum up that part of the discussion is, I am so glad that all three of us took this decision, took the idea of stepping out of our comfort zone, whether we were excited, whether we were afraid, whether we were thinking this or that, but we did. And that has led us to where we are right now, to Dubai, to Sydney, to Vancouver. And I must say that the people that are listening to this, do step out of your comfort zone, do take that step. You might face a lot of rejection, you might face a lot of fear, and you might be excited as well. But in the end, it'll be all worth it. All three of us are here smiling. Like Sadan said, even before we started this conversation, it made me so happy because I'm talking to Sadan after a long while, because we are talking in groups, we are talking digitally, but to have this
Yeah.
conversation
One
face to
on
face.
one.
And
Yeah.
the first thing that he said was all smiles all around. That is a testament to the fact that we are doing good and that we are on our path, and this works. This works. You
Yeah.
don't have to necessarily stay at home. You can take that step, you can make those decisions, and you can make it work.
Yeah.
So it's truly humbling, you guys. It's amazing.
But also that we do realize, just want to put it out there, that we're in a very privileged position. Not everybody has that opportunity to, go abroad and live like that. So
I
we
would
don't take that
say,
lightly. You can
yeah,
create the opportunity for yourself, I
I would
believe.
say for myself, I created this
You created,
opportunity.
yeah.
Yes, for
Yeah.
me, of course, I am. When you have a house, when you have a roof over your head, when you have clothes to wear, when you have food in your belly, you are privileged, definitely, especially from a country where we come from.
Yeah.
You are privileged. At the same time, for me, even if you're privileged, you see, brother, there are so many people that we know who are privileged, and we know that they might or might not be able to take that situation. That is definitely on their hand,
Yeah.
but it's
But it's
just
just,
about realizing, yeah, like you said, what you want in your life. So in my case, I was able to create those opportunities. I was able to put myself on a path. And even for you, I mean, it was up to you to have stayed in Pakistan as well, but you did decide to get out of your comfort zone, to get to have, even to have that excitement is something
curiosity. Yeah. For
tremendous.
me,
Yeah,
that's what it
it's
was.
absolutely. You could
Uh,
have been curious in Pakistan. There are so many cities, but you decided, no, I will go to the UK.
Yeah, I mean, coming back to that privilege point, it's just like for us, it's you kind of, I only, and we've discussed this before as well. Just look at yourself. I mean, a lot of people think in the ways they do, that doesn't concern us. So I just think of myself like I consider myself privileged and grateful. And from that position of gratitude, then you can attract more of that energy. So it's just about that. So we are privileged. There's no two ways about it, obviously. But it's also that what you do with that privilege, like you mentioned, and how you use it to cultivate a life uh, for yourself and others around you that is fulfilling and leads to more growth for yourself and others around you. So that's what we're doing here. And I think I want to conclude with a very, it's just a beautiful, not a story per se, but an interaction me and Sadan had. So I
Okay.
visited Saadan in Canada last year, and very straightforward. We were meeting after 5 years, and I had the most beautiful time. But we had a bit of disconnect. I felt like, and we talked about this as well. So I had to when I went to Australia for a few months, and I was coming back to Karachi in December, and he was in Islamabad as well. And although I didn't have a lot of time. It was very like my trip was very, how do you call it, like I didn't have a lot of time, but
Short.
yeah, it wasn't too short, but I was going to Dubai as well, and I was traveling with my parents as well, so I didn't have a lot of time, but I made sure that I have to go to Islamabad to see Sadan, even if it's just for 2 days. And I'm so glad I did. We reconnected again and talked about those things, but also this podcast came to life because of that trip and because of that
No
conversation.
way.
So I've Sadan probably knows this, but we were just chilling and we were having conversation. And I told him I just had a realization that the most actions, positive actions, and things that I've accomplished because of those actions have come about. Because I was having that conversation with the right person. And I had that conversation with Sadan at the time. And I don't know if he remembers, we were sitting out on the couch, and because of that conversation, it just struck me, and I told him I'm going to go in the room and journal on it. So I have it, like I've literally pulled it up as well, and I go through them. It was like 20th of December, and I just went through the things in that moment. Like we had that discussion, I went to the room, I put up a quick format that I want to do this because, like, I've committed myself to a journey of self discovery and self growth. So I want to expand all avenues that help me do that, and podcasting and having these valuable conversation was one of them, which is what led me, this conversation with Sadan led me to do a project deep dive, which I did with both of you and a few of my other friends, and eventually that stemmed into Wiser Together. So much credit to you, my brother. It is through that exchange of energy again with the right people, we're able to do this and a lot of other things. So I'm just truly grateful to have you in my life.
Thank you so much for that. Like I remember you've told me this before as well, and every time I talk to you, you always give me this story of this kind of deep belief that my relationship with yourself has an impact, uh, not just on the day-to-day life, but your vision and where you're going in life, right? So
Yeah.
it humbles me, it makes me really warm, to be honest, to know that like interactions like the ones that we have left an impact in your life, and that I would say for me it has been something that has been monumental in my life, and that's something that I crave. Is as I was writing some things to talk on for today as well. The number out of the 12 things, 7 things that I had written down. The first one is friendship. So in general, like that's something that means a lot, and a true genuine connection where you have that kind of feeling where you are enriched by each other's not just presence, by communication. I think is holds value, and knowing that people like yourself have benefit from it, and is a testament to that I'm living up to that one value that I want to create more of in my life.
I believe this. First of all, I did not know this, and as a co-host, I should. I was like blown away. I was like, but at the same time, not surprised because
Hmm.
I do understand the friendship that both of you have, and in extension of that, I on my phone I have Sadan's name saved as Sadhu Baba.
That's
So
what
so
we
that's
call him.
that's yeah. So that's like a yeah like a wiser person.
Yeah,
Like an
exactly.
elderly wiser person. May you forever stay young, but like in terms of
Yeah.
mental maturity. And it's not only me, all the again we have a common group that's going to keep on coming up, that's by the name of Banu Bachur, where we have these 16, 17 friends from all over the world. And whenever I talk to other members of that group, they also speak in the same direction as I also believe, and also Pramit also shared about Sadan. They also, whenever there is something to seek in terms of advice, in terms of wisdom, in terms of direction, Sadan is there to offer that. It is again to know both of you for me is the highest privilege. I believe it's the highest privilege
Oh,
because through these interactions, through these friendship, I have grown so much. And even right now, taking away from this conversation, I was telling Pranmeet as well that each episode lets us absorbs the energy, lets us absorb these ideas. So while I'm going to be driving to my work, when I'm going to be taking a shower, working out, I'm going to be thinking about these things, and then those ideas are going to manifest into different things and different actions. So this is the true privilege I believe that we have. It's again, it's not the money, it's not the experience, it's not anything. It's about having the 8 billion people. How lucky am I to know both of you? It's such a
Likewise.
privilege.
That's what I'm saying.
likewise.
Just having that conversation that allows you to discover something about yourself, leading to a certain action, and then you accomplish something that is so monumental, so big that it has a effect on everyone around you in a positive way. And that's what life's about, man. Honestly,
Amazing.
and I'm glad we can have more and more of that with the community that we're creating here. So
Yes, sir.
that's amazing. I think we've gone over quite a bit. We can go over for hours and hours, but when Anas is editing this episode, is gonna be
Yeah, it's gonna
so
be
It's,
challenging.
yeah.
the
So
best thing is that about the concept of friends of the podcast, recurring guest is
yeah,
Yeah.
Sadan. We can have him again and with new experience. I again this there is always a time constraint. There is so much to talk about. I had so many things that I wanted to talk
Yeah.
about, understand more about Sadan, but people say that these podcasts are so long, this and that, like you should shorten it, but they don't realize when
you
you're in the
don't.
gist of it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's you don't know where time goes away. Like this 1 hour, I don't know where it went, and there's just still so much to know about Sadan, about his journey, about his life. So maybe in the future, yeah.
yeah. Like I had a lot of stuff written down as well, and most of the chats Salan and me have, we didn't even talk about it here. Like Salan's been on a because I was on a journey of self awareness as well and self discovery. Salan's been on a similar journey himself. So we've exchanged a lot of energy there and tried to understand each other's struggles, challenges, achievements, what works, what doesn't work. which is what I had intended to do on this podcast, but hopefully next time, because I think you can add a lot of value to us, to yourself, to the listeners of the podcast. So hopefully next time we can do that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sound, that's what I was gonna say as well. There's a lot more that I would love to share as well, especially on the on that subject matter of finding spirituality and finding yourself in a world which is hard to navigate, and also how to take
Yeah,
care of your mental health in a world that's difficult and kind of challenging to navigate, and just how we can be better humans towards ourselves, but and also others and people who are neurologically different, people whose world looks a little bit more different than ours. And I think we can definitely chat about that some other day. But for now, I think the listeners can enjoy some of our discussion, some of the experiences that I've shared, and find some inspiration, some sort, and just absorb some of the value that is to be found in those snippets of our discussions and our experiences, because think we've all
yeah,
lived a very decent life and a positive life mostly. And we have all had negative moments in our life and done things that we're not proud of. But I think
agreed.
we can all learn from each other, and people, if this voice is getting to anybody's ears, it's definitely something to be learned.
No, 100%. I mean, I always say beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So the right person will pick up on that energy and use it positively in their life
Hmm.
to do something. So yeah, it comes down to you how you operate in life, right? So that's where it is. I think we'll cut it off here. So I just want to thank everybody for listening and being a part of this. We truly, truly, truly enjoy having these conversations and the value they bring to us. And if they bring you some value as well, that's just added. It's like cherry on the top of a cake for us. So please support us in any way you can. We really appreciate you sticking by till the end. And let us know if you relate with any of the experiences that we've shared here. We'd love to talk with you. And we'll have Sadan back again soon. So, yeah, take care. Have a nice one. And then we can see you next Sunday. Bye bye.
All right, guys. Ciao. Take care.
Thank you for the invite, guys, and the discussion. Looking forward to being back and exploring some of the other topics and chatting to you guys more and kind of sharing more smiles. So nice to see you guys.
Likewise, likewise, bro. Catch you guys next Sunday. Bye bye.